What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 12-team PPR mock where we will be selecting from the 12th overall position. Should be pretty interesting. As you can see, we've got the setup all ready to go. And while we wait, a quick reminder. If you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comment section. Do you like this team, these picks? The logic, along with any other questions you guys might have. We would do our best to answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you can want at a great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this draft where the first pick will be shortly made here. And I anticipate, as it's the case in almost 99.99% of drafts, the first pick will be Christian McCaffrey, especially again in these PPR formats. And as you can see, that is the case here with McCaffrey, the first name off the board. Then if I had to kind of guess the situation, I would say Dalvin Cook is probably next, followed by Alvin Kamara, even though worth noting here, Alvin Kamara is ranked 6th overall on ESPN's platform behind guys like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Travis Kelce. But this is why it kind of pays to do your research on what platform has their rankings in which way, because there's going to be major positional ranking differences. For example, other platforms are going to have Alvin Kamara ranked as highly as number 3 overall. So again, just because you can put together one team on one platform doesn't mean you're going to be able to duplicate that exact same team on every single other platform. In fact, in some platforms, you might have to reach a little bit for a player. On some, you might get a better value for a player. And I think that's the case here on ESPN. We might get a better value for somebody like Alvin Kamara, even though, he goes 4th overall, which is pretty typical. He either goes 3rd or 4th overall. So it shows that the people that we are drafting with, they're pretty good judges of player values, and they don't just go by the big board on the respective platform. They probably have their own rankings and have identified the value of these players. Afterwards, you see Ezekiel Elliott drafted 5th overall. So the trend of passing up on guys like Kelce and Saquon Barkley, despite the fact that they're ranked 4th and 5th overall, respectively, by ESPN, continues, which I would say having Kelce ranked that high is kind of ludicrous. Barkley ranked 5th overall when you can get some safer options. Again, I prefer to stay away from it. I think it's a bit of a risk. There goes Aaron Jones, who, look, he was somebody that I was hoping would fall to us towards the end of the first round, because I'm not sure if you noticed, Aaron Jones was ranked 13th overall, which, again, technically would mean that he might be available there in that turn right for us with the 12th and then 13th pick. And I would have been very, very happy if we could have gotten, let's say, an Aaron Jones and an Austin Eckler. I think that would have been an absolute steal. But that's not the case right now. However, we still have 2 picks to go until our turn, and I think we've got some very, very good options. Quickly, again, going through these players that have already been drafted. McCaffrey first, then Dalvin Cook, then Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara. Again, in PPR, I'd be drafting Kamara over Derrick Henry, followed by Zeke, followed by Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, then Devontae Adams, the first pass catcher off the board, followed by Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, and now Stephon Diggs with the second to last pick in the first round. So a couple things that stand out. First, Travis Kelce is still on the board, but I'm going to be passing on him here. I want to get a running back with one of these first 2 picks. You guys know how I feel about Austin Eckler. He will be one of these automatic picks for us. The question after this is, are we going to select a second running back, or are we going to select somebody like a Tyreek Hill to get that bona fide wide receiver 1? And I'm honestly kind of, probably on the side of going Tyreek Hill and then gambling to see what we can get in the 3rd round with a second running back. If it wasn't the case, I'd be going Antonio Gibson here. I think he's a tremendous option at running back as well. Somebody that does have breakout potential. I kind of went through all those scenarios in a video a few days ago, talking about some breakout candidates at the running back position. I think Antonio Gibson definitely has that type of upside with the way the usage is trending in Washington, with the way, in terms of them describing the role he wants to, build for himself, they see for him in terms of maybe being a Christian McCaffrey. Again, obviously, I don't think it's going to be that necessarily, just because the amount of passing work probably not going to be there with all those other targets. But Gibson is trending in the right direction as far as having one of those potential breakout seasons. But so far in the second round, after our Tyreek Hill selection, you see Travis Kelce. That makes sense. He was going to go shortly thereafter. I think this is probably going to be the latest you see Travis Kelce drafted, especially in a 12-team format. Then Najee Harris, then Antonio Gibson. Again, I'd be drafting Antonio Gibson ahead of Najee Harris. I feel better about the team he has around him more so than a Najee Harris. Now, with what we have left, I think Calvin Ridley is a very good value. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire as well. So those would probably be my next two choices, even though you see DK Metcalf here as the next best wide receiver drafted. I really like A.J. Brown if we're talking wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, those would be my next three guys, other than Calvin Ridley, of course, who we mentioned previously. But I quickly want to sort things out here by the running back position and see who we might expect for us towards the end of the third round. And guys that we're probably going to be looking at are Chris Carson, Darrell Henderson, maybe DeAndre Swift. If we get one of those three guys to fall to us, I'd be very, very happy. And I think the gamble of taking Tyreek Hill second overall is going to have paid off. If not, then we can kind of use it as a lesson and then, justify the fact going back-to-back running backs really almost at any point in the draft and, go from there. But right now, I can't be too mad about getting a stud wide receiver like Tyreek Hill where we did. The way this thing is playing out right now, after that Antonio Gibson and DK Metcalf selection in the middle of the second round, you saw A.J. Brown, you saw Calvin Ridley. So kind of like I mentioned, Brown, Ridley, those next tier wide receivers. Then Joe Mixon, there goes DeAndre Hopkins. So we're cleaning up on those wide receivers. I very much expect the next top wide receiver to be selected to be Justin Jefferson. Ooh, we see George Kittle here selected with a 10th pick in the second round. So a little bit of a surprise pick, if you will, especially considering that I would say most platforms have Darren Waller ranked as their number 2 tight end. But that's all right. That means potentially another higher tiered player will drop for us, which I'm always a fan of. And I'd still say it's not too crazy to see George Kittle being drafted at that point in time. Some people still really, really like him and value the tight end position, so they're probably going to draft him end of the second, early third. That's been the case with, the second best tight end, whoever you think that is. Again, we specifically here think it's Darren Waller, a little bit ahead of George Kittle, just because the amount of volume he will probably get. But either way, that's usually where that second tight end is drafted. Now, me personally, I've said it before, I would wait until the 4th, 5th round if you really wanted to land a upper echelon tight end and consider guys like a Pitts, guys like a TJ Hawkinson, if you're willing to pay that price, if you believe in those prospects. After George Kittle, we see Justin Jefferson, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Good value on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion. The last pick in the second round. Then Darren Waller. Then a couple picks I really, really don't like. Miles Sanders and Josh Jacobs back-to-back. I don't know how you can select Sanders and Jacobs ahead of Chris Carson and Darrell Henderson. I think Carson and Henderson both have much, much better situations than Sanders and Jacobs, respectively. They're on teams where we know that they will be the bell cows for now. They're on teams where the offensive line isn't as big of a question marks and, no real threat of a running back by committee like maybe in Philadelphia with Miles Sanders. So Those are things I like to point out and, again, highlight in terms of value for Carson and Henderson. CeeDee Lamb is the 4th pick in the 3rd round. He goes before a guy like a Terry McLaurin, before somebody like a Keenan Allen. And right now, if Keenan Allen is there, I'm going to be, hard-pressed not to select him with one of my picks. Unfortunately, there goes David Montgomery and Chris Carson with the 6th and 7th pick, respectively, in the 3rd round. And the reason you heard me make that noise was because Darrell Henderson goes 8th overall in the 3rd round. So right now, maybe that gamble didn't exactly pay off. There goes J.K. Dobbins. There goes Mike Evans. Right now, we got to pray and hope that DeAndre Swift falls to us here, because we would be kind of in a bad situation if he doesn't, as far as the running back position is concerned. And I would bet that, the way this is looking, DeAndre Swift is probably going to get sniped right before we can make our pick here. So if we take that into account, looking at other running back options, you look at this list, we actually get lucky. Keenan Allen is the selection here, even though I would have liked for him to be one of our picks. However, the much more, important selection is there for us in terms of DeAndre Swift getting that second running back spot. I would have preferred it if it was Chris Carson and Darrell Henderson, just because I think they have less question marks. Swift with that groin injury, with Jamal Williams still kind of looming there. But all things considered, I'm happy we got Swift. He's a very, very solid PPR type of wide receiver. Now we've got an option. Do we go Allen Robinson? Do we go to somebody like a Robert Woods? I like both of them. I don't know what the quarterback situation in Chicago will be. I don't know when we potentially might see Justin Fields, how long it'll be Andy Dalton for. So going somebody like a Robert Woods maybe is the safer choice here, and I'll go with that at this point in time. So we get Robert Woods. I think right now we've got a very balanced roster. I will say we got very, very lucky with DeAndre Swift falling to us, and depending on how you feel about him, well, it could be a bit of a risky pick as well. So again, this was kind of done as an exercise to go Tyreek Hill with our second pick and, not take that second running back like I would usually do in the majority of cases. And you see why it was a risk. We had Chris Carson and Darrell Henderson both go in the 3rd round, and those are the way things are trending right now, especially with Darrell Henderson. People are putting him higher and higher. So middle to end of the 3rd round is probably his ceiling. If you can get him at some point in the 4th round, that's very, very good value in my opinion. DeAndre Swift, I think we were lucky to get him where we did. But looking back at this, probably, if Swift wasn't available, I would have said the gamble was not worth it, because I kind of had started talking about this before, we knew we would get DeAndre Swift. But looking at these other running backs, I think there's a huge, huge drop-off. Chase Edmonds, Javonte Williams, Etienne, Hunt, Robinson, Harris, Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin. Interesting to see how low they're ranked. But just something that I point out, I would have felt a lot better if we had gotten Swift, Carson, or Henderson as opposed to any of these names at this point in time. So it works out for us. Now we can focus on other selections in these next few rounds. But let's go over these last few picks here in the 4th round after we went Robert Woods. You see Allen Robinson. That makes sense. He was a good value pick where he went. Then Adam Thielen. Again, with Adam Thielen, I'd probably be selecting somebody like a Deontay Johnson, Amari Cooper ahead of him. Maybe even probably a Tyler Lockett, Cooper Kupp. So I think Adam Thielen probably should have gone a little bit later. Then you see Julio Jones getting that upside with Julio in the 4th round. I don't mind it. DJ Moore, 5th overall. Again, Deontay, Amari Cooper, I'd have ranked above him. Then Chris Godwin with the 8th pick in the 4th round, followed by Mark Andrews, followed by Patrick Mahomes. Finally, we see our first quarterback off the board. Something I want to quickly mention here. I said Chris Godwin, 8th overall in the 4th round. Mike Evans went 10th overall in the 3rd round, so pretty much an entire round later. We're talking about a PPR format. In PPR formats, Chris Godwin, I would say, should be the no-brainer first Tampa Bay wide receiver drafted because Mike Evans, he's more of a standard suited wide receiver. And to me, you know, that means that in PPR, you go with the wide receiver that's going to get more volume, more catches. I don't think Mike Evans translates in that category. You're going to be relying on touchdowns. There's going to be a lot of inconsistencies. So Chris Godwin, all things considered, very good value for him. Now, after that, we saw Patrick Mahomes go with the 10th pick in the 4th round, then Josh Allen, the 11th pick in the 4th round, then Tyler Lockett. Now we're seeing maybe a run on wide receivers with Brendan Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy. I still don't know how Cooper Kupp is available, and as soon as I say that, he goes 3rd overall in the 5th round. Tremendous, tremendous value, one of the best values in this entire draft so far. So I really, really like that pick. Right now, I'm looking at these rankings. I'm looking at who's available. I really like T. Higgins as far as a wide receiver. Let's quickly sort it by wide receiver, by the way. And you see T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, one right after the other. That's how I've had my rankings of these Cincinnati wide receivers pretty much since the get-go, back a few months ago. So I agree with this situation. Then Chase Claypool, there goes Jamar Chase. Now Chase Edmonds, Kenny Golladay. I'm interested to see where T. Higgins goes, because I don't think it should be all that much further than Jamar Chase. I think having Michael Thomas ranked 72nd overall, that's probably still a little bit too early. I would have him ranked a little bit lower. Going down this list, I think Antonio Brown is ranked way too low. I think Deebo Samuel is probably ranked a little bit too low. Marvin Jones, definitely. Somebody like a Darnell Mooney. Guys that you know how I feel about at this point in time. But let's see what happens here with these next couple of picks. We saw Chase Edmonds go. Kenny Golladay just got drafted. There goes Courtland Sutton. I will say at this point in time, we're getting back to that, kind of situation where running back is now a really good value, in my opinion. Having Mike Davis and Myles Gaskin both available this late, I think is tremendous value, honestly. There goes Kareem Hunt. Now, I wouldn't have Javonte Williams ranked above Mike Davis. There goes T. Higgins. So right now, we're in a situation where I was going to say maybe get Kyler Murray, which I would have been very, very happy about. But of course, he goes with the 11th pick in the 5th round. Lamar Jackson is still there. I think that's a very good value. I could go Mike Davis. I could go Myles Gaskin here, but I'm going to go with TJ Hawkinson. I think TJ Hawkinson at this point in time is a tremendous, tremendous pick. Kyle Pitts, I was also considering he went with a pick prior to Kyler Murray. Maybe even going double tight end would have been interesting. But no, I'm going to just at least get TJ Hawkinson. I think that's a slam dunk pick at this point in time. Looking at our quarterbacks, by far the best available quarterback for me would be Lamar Jackson right now. At running back, kind of tempting to go with a Mike Davis or to go with again, Myles Gaskin. I think they're my next two best available guys. But you know what? I kind of want to see where they go. So I'm just going to select Lamar Jackson here and then see if one of those running backs drops even further, if that's kind of a trend that's emerging here on ESPN or not, or, if our league mates will kind of realize that situation and scoop up one of those guys. So right now, I really like the spot we're in. We've got Lamar and TJ Hawkinson with our last two picks in the 5th and 6th round, respectively. So I think TJ Hawkinson there was a slam dunk pick. You could make a case about Lamar Jackson. We could have definitely waited on quarterback. You've got guys like Herbert, guys like Stafford, Burrow, still all available. And, there's just a lot of depth at the quarterback position, but we take a chance on a tier 1 type of quarterback in Lamar Jackson because he was the last one in that category, in my opinion. Then, I was talking a bunch about Mike Davis. Guess who goes immediately after our selection of Lamar Jackson? It is the aforementioned Mike Davis. So there you go. The drop doesn't continue that much further. And we see that we're drafting with knowledgeable individuals because they realize the value is there. We've seen that a couple times so far. Logan Thomas afterwards, followed by Dak, followed by Odell, now Chase Claypool, then Will Fuller. So let's look at the big board here and see where good value is emerging. Brandon Cooks is somebody that's very, very interesting, but again, until we know for a fact what's happening with Deshaun Watson, I feel like one day there's, a news nugget that suggests he might play. Then there's another one that, saying that he probably doesn't, that it's all, pointing towards him being placed on the exempt list. So again, we're back into the situation where Cooks and Watson themselves kind of risky picks. So right now, since we don't have any new information, I'm kind of avoiding both of those guys and just the Houston offense in general, because no Deshaun Watson, then, it's really kind of an offense that I'd rather not invest picks in. If there's anybody you force my hand into drafting, it would be Brandon Cooks for what that's worth. After that Will Fuller selection, you see Aaron Rodgers, then Raheem Mostert, then Juju Smith-Schuster. There goes Noah Fant with the 11th pick in the 6th round. So, you've kind of seen a couple tight ends drafted here with Logan Thomas, with Noah Fant. So very happy we got TJ Hawkinson where we did. There goes Travis Etienne. So right now, we can get our flex player here. I think we've got some very, very good options. Guys still like a Damian Harris, guys like a Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, I kind of went over why I'm a little bit nervous drafting him right now. But Myles Gaskin is still there, Antonio Brown. I think Myles Gaskin is very, very underrated here on ESPN. Yes, I realize there have been some reports in terms of Miami being worried about his usage, but I think, you getting him at the end of the 7th round, that's just very, very good value. So now we're kind of speeding up here a little bit with some of these auto picks. I don't mind that at all. And, if I had to guess, I think we're going to be able to get either one of Damian Harris or Myles Gaskin the way this is shaping up. So very happy about that. You see these last couple of selections, just kind of going over them in the 7th round. First pick, Russell Wilson, then James Robinson, then Brady, then Javonte Williams, Robbie Anderson, Justin Herbert. So our running quarterbacks here in the 7th round. DJ Shark, then Michael Gallup. Now let's see what these next couple of teams do. There's 3 picks until we've got our back-to-back selection. There goes Brennan Cooks, there goes Laviska, and Damian Harris as well prior to that. So we kind of get our wish. We are going to get Myles Gaskin here with one of our picks. And then afterwards, who do you go with? Do you go with a Deebo? Do you go with a, Devonta Smith? I think Antonio Brown is a bit safer than both of them. I think he's going to be on a very high-powered offense, and I think that all the wide receivers on that offense essentially are going to have a very similar role. So I'm going to go with Antonio Brown here. I think he continues to be one of the best late-round steals in drafts. So I think at that point in time, he was just a great selection. Then you see Marquise Brown, Michael Thomas being drafted. Again, I continue to say this with Michael Thomas. He's kind of, unfortunately, because of his injury situation, wound up on my do not draft list. I think since there's so many question marks, we don't know when he's going to return. We don't know if it'll be for the New Orleans Saints. I'd rather just not take a chance on him at this point in time. I think there's still better wide receiver options there. Hell, even some running backs you see a Melvin Gordon as a potential option. Ronald Jones is still going to be there. So I think still some really, really good value. I would say ESPN has some of these, quote-unquote lower ranked running backs kind of, undervalued with Melvin Gordon and with Ronald Jones. So to me, they remain good value picks, especially Ronald Jones, where you see him here at 111th overall. So I'm going to make probably 2 more selections and then wrap this thing up. I think we've gotten a good idea even right now already in terms of what we can expect from this team. There goes, just looking at these last couple of selections, I want to make sure that we highlight them so far in the 8th round since it's almost concluded. You see Michael Thomas after Antonio Brown selection. There Marquise Brown, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel, Ryan Tannehill, Boyd, Robert Tonyan, Jalen Hurts, Leonard Fournette, Curtis Samuel, and then Jarvis Landry with the last pick in the 8th round. There goes Marvin Jones, then Mike Williams. So again, Ronald Jones is still available right now. He kind of would be my no-brainer of a pick. Maybe Melvin Gordon. We'll see who's left standing. And of course, we're going to see some defenses now. We've gotten to that point in time with these auto picks. Dallas Goedert, the 6th pick in the 9th round. Very, very good value, I would say. Let's quickly sort this by wide receiver to see who is still kind of kicking, who's still available. Russell Gage, you see there, his name down the board here. Melvin Gordon is just selected. There goes Matthew Stafford. Tremendous value on Matthew Stafford, the 10th pick in the 9th round. That's awesome. But, that's, again, as a, kind of default situation because ESPN really has their quarterbacks undervalued, I would say. But here, we're going to go with Ronald Jones with one of our picks. I told you before that I think he's somebody at this point in time that's an absolute steal. Tight end, I'm not worried about. Quarterback, I'm not worried about. We've got our guys there. So wide receiver, we go back to the wide receiver guys, and I'm going to go here with Russell Gage. And with that, we kind of wrap this thing up. I think we've got the majority of this team. We've got some good bench pieces, so let's quickly go over it. Lamar Jackson, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift. We waited on the running back position, kind of gambled there. I think we got very lucky in retrospect. If you want to play it safer, probably take that running back in the 2nd round as well. But hey, we were able to land Tyreek Hill, get an elite wide receiver on our team. So I really like the way this team actually turned out. I think we've got, honestly, at every single position, somebody that can finish as an RB1, a wide receiver 1, a tight end 1, a quarterback 1, and guys that can challenge for the overall, positional number 1 finish in their respective categories. So very, very happy about that. We got Swift. I'm a little bit nervous about him, but we were able to get Gaskin and Ronald Jones afterwards. Some good depth pieces. Robert Woods I like, getting Antonio Brown and Russell Gage afterwards. I actually think this is a pretty good roster. All things considered, I'll give it a B+ roster just because the situation right now with Swift is a little bit questionable. If he wasn't dealing with that groin and if it wasn't Anthony Lynn there saying hot hand approach, blah, 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 then I'd almost say this is an A type of roster. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But more importantly, hit us up with any questions you guys might have. We will do our best to answer them all. And if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you want at a great value. Details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.